This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Hello, my friends. Kinsey Roberts here, host of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Welcome to episode 168 with my guest, Aleya Harris. You guys will love this episode. You're going to love Aleya. She was cracking me up the entire time. So not only is she hilarious, but this topic of using your brand story to drive profits in your wedding business was really interesting to me. We've talked about branding before on the podcast, as longtime listeners will remember, but not in a way like Aleya does and shares and teaches us how to use that brand story or stories, more than one, to drive profit in our business. So I'm not going to make you wait very long at all. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Aleya, and then you and I are going to hop right into the interview so we can hear from this brilliant woman. Most catering and event business owners fail at making money doing what they love because they don't know how to market themselves. Through her company, Flourish Marketing, Aleya offers marketing education strategy and tools that help wedding, catering, and event business owners stop staring at a blank calendar and start getting and keeping a consistent stream of clients. Aleya is a Le Cordon Bleu. I never know if I should say that with like a French accent, but I'm not going to this time. She's a Le Cordon Bleu-trained chef who also happens to be an award-winning marketing strategist, brand manager, content developer, and, not surprising, storyteller. She has a background as a marketing executive on the leadership teams of large food service organizations and has also been a private chef and catering company owner. We talk about those things. Aleya speaks your language and understands your challenges. She knows how important it is to work your passion. That's why for the past 12 years, she has been focused on helping over 1,000 accounts, brands, and business owners to be successful. Aleya is a dynamic interpersonal communicator and presenter with the exceptional ability to inspire, motivate, and equip her audience. She loves opportunities to connect, help people develop, and create the space for her fellow entrepreneurs to see their visions manifest. So without further ado, we are going to talk to Aleya Harris from Flourish Marketing about how you can use your brand story to drive profit into your wedding business. Buckle up. Here we go. Aleya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kinsey, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. It's a huge pleasure. I was very, very excited and thrilled, honestly, when Megan Ely connected us because you and I spoke together for just 15 minutes each on, was that a NACE topic? That sounds so silly, but I was I feel like we've been doing a lot of webinars recently and I can't remember, but was it NACE?
It was nice.
Yeah.
They've all kind of come together. I talk to people more now from my home than I did when I could leave my home.
Exactly. I feel like I've never been on video so much. But anyway, all that is to say, the reason I bring that up is because when I got to speak with, alongside you during that webinar, I just instantly fell in love with you. I thought this woman is so smart. And so I was very, very honored to have her suggest that you come on the show. So anyway, very much excited to have you here. As everybody knows, I always read your professional bio there at the top of the show. So they have a little bit of an idea about you, Aleya, but would you, in your own words, just tell us who you are, kind of what you're doing in the industry?
Absolutely. So I'm the owner of Flourish Marketing, and because most wedding catering and events professionals don't have a background in marketing, they tend to be a little bit scared about the whole marketing topic. They end up not making as much money as they could and should because they don't know how to sell themselves. They don't know how to market themselves and their business. So Flourish Marketing and we have a passion for creating a marketing education strategy and tools that help people in the wedding industry make money doing what they love and turn their talents into treasure.
I love it. And you were a caterer and a private chef before you got into marketing, yeah?
I absolutely was. So I went to the University of Southern California first. So fight on, go Trojans. And then I was in the fashion industry, which was not the place for me. And then I was transferred to cosmetics, still not a hit. And then I got laid off. And my friend was eating my food, and she sat at my house, as she was apt to do often. And she said, "You should go to culinary school." And I said, "Well, I can't seem to get a job, so I might as well go and have some fun." And I did for 2 years. And while I was in culinary school at Le Cordon Bleu in Pasadena, I had one of my favorite, not so favorite chef instructors tell me one of the most pivotal pieces of backwards advice, I guess, that I've gotten, which was you are going to have to work in this industry at like $8 an hour for like 10, 15 years before you're ever able to amount to anything. And I said, that's not how I'm set up. That's not going to work for me. So I was like, challenge accepted. And I started my catering business while I was still in culinary school, while getting 4.0s and graduating at the top of my class. And toot my own horn, toot. Mostly for that chef instructor, just in case they're listening. And I ended up creating a private chef business inside kind of that catering business. Mm-hmm. And my first big clients were Stevie Wonder and Bruce Willis. So I ended up really accepting that challenge and moving forward. And then after that, I parlayed into working for Google's food program on the vendor side. And then I rose up to the ranks of being a marketing executive. And then I kind of looked around and I said, oh, wait, how did I end up at corporate? This is not where I thought I would be. And then I started Flourish Marketing while I was the head of marketing for North America for a large corporate food service company. And here we are today. So I have the chef background and the catering background and the marketing executive background, and I bundle that all together to help folks in the industry.
I was laughing to myself, like just casual. So I started a private chef company and my first client was Stevie Wonder. I'm like, that's just, that's not successful at all. Just real casual.
It is a blessing. It is. And I don't take it for granted. I know I probably say it casually now because it's part of my story, but I definitely don't take it for granted.
You know what is interesting about that is I think, and I knew that about you because I mentioned to you offline, Aleya, that I listened to a few episodes that you were on previous to this podcast, as I like to do with all guests. But I was thinking about that when I heard that, and I'm wondering, and this is kind of a lesson for all of us, is that we think, wow, that must be the pinnacle. But that was kind of actually your first thing. You started your catering company, and then within that you started, being a private chef, and then you moved on. And then not all of a sudden, it's like, overnight success, many years in the making. But then you end up as the head of marketing for a large corporate food service program. And so that wasn't kind of, quote, the pinnacle or the top for you. It was more of the beginning of your story. And I was wondering about how offering a one-on-one service played into getting such a prestigious position. I think sometimes, especially in online marketing, I wonder if you agree, we think, oh, that passive income, and which you and I are both fans of. We're both fans of sales funnels and all of that. But I think we sometimes want to just go to kind of hop and leap over providing those services that people will actually pay top dollar for.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they will. So for me, and I'm not trying to make any online creators mad. So if you any little feelings after I say this, I'm sorry. But you have to know what you're talking about before you can teach it.
Come on.
So there's a lot of people that are saying, I'm going to just create an online course. Well, have you ever done that before? No, but I watch a lot of YouTube. Like that's not going to cut it. I would feel like a fraud if I had never worked in our industry and then I niched down just to talk to marketing in our industry. That would make me uncomfortable and would take me out of my center of ethics. Mm-hmm. I think that when you talked about story pinnacles, for me, when I think about a story, a good story, a juicy story that keeps you engaged to the end, there's kind of ups and downs, right? So, the down before culinary school, I remember laid off, crying, feeling very indignant in my car with my box of stuff on my lap and trying to figure out what the heck just happened. Then I go to culinary school, I'm kicking it, killing the game. And then, but at the same time, it's like on the road up because I'm like in culinary school, living off of unemployment, trying to figure out how many potatoes I can take while I'm trying to learn how to tourné and make mashed potatoes for dinner that night. Like there's a whole thing. And then Stevie Wonder, who is absolutely a pinnacle. of my career. We traveled the world. It was amazing. But that's when other parts of, if you're thinking of yourself as your character in your own story, other facets of the character start being revealed, right?
That's right. And it was the start of something for you.
It was this, for me, everything is the start of something else, right? When you feel like you've hit a high, then you have, and then you get a chance to look at your life from a different perspective, from that new vantage point. And that's what I did. I said, this is amazing, but I never thought I would get this job. I applied for it online, the job with Google Food and being a vendor for that program. And it was about changing the world through food. And because I had been able to work with Stevie Wonder and get an elevated perspective on how food is so personal and how food really does affect your well-being physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I wanted to be able to do that on a grander scale. So then that was a new pinnacle and a new beginning,
Mm-hmm.
And now
Absolutely.
to help other people who do that every day with weddings, help people celebrate their biggest milestones of their lives. So I love the kind of roller coaster ride. It's obviously easier to love at the top than at the bottom, but the transition going from I do this hands-on to I want to do this passively, I'm so glad I did the hands-on first,
Mm-hmm.
because now I have a story that's really kind of juicy to tell that makes people really know that I know how to help you.
That's right. That's right. Well, and our topic today, you guys, and you know this from the title, we're talking about using that brand story or multiple brand stories to drive profit. And I like how you have already kind of intertwined your own parts of your own brand story into the beginning of this episode. And I think that everyone is listening and saying, okay, I like this. I see where she's going with this. What does it mean to use brand story to drive profit? So let's dig in a little bit more first and talk about what is brand story and how do we find our brand story, and then how do we use it to drive profit?
Awesome. That's not a loaded question.
That's not, there's 3 questions right there. Super easy, 5 minutes, go. Just kidding.
So first, why am I even talking about, before we add the word brand to story, let's just talk about the word story.
Mm-hmm.
Story is a sense-making device. If you were to take a bunch of puzzle pieces and throw them up in the air and then they landed on the floor, you kind of guess that they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to create a picture. But it's not until you put those puzzle pieces into an order, you snap them together. Hopefully it's not one of those super long puzzles, which I do not have the patience for. But you eventually get all of the puzzle pieces together and you're like, oh, now I see the story. Now I see the full picture. Now I know what this puzzle was trying to tell me to do. Story is the act of and the framework that you use to put those puzzle pieces together so that they make sense. Mm-hmm. If we add the word brand to the word story, which unfortunately a lot of us do, we present our brand to the public as the puzzle pieces before they've been put together. And we expect our audience to look at those puzzle pieces and say, oh yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying. I'm going to work with you because the pieces look great. And unfortunately, people that don't know us, so strangers, before we get to know them, aren't going to spend any brain cells trying to figure us out. It's our job as business owners to put the puzzle pieces together for them. So all they have to do is say yes. If you are expecting to have no puzzle pieces kind of together, or maybe like you got the corners together and you're supposed to start with the frame of the puzzle, right? If you're expecting that to sell and you're wondering why you just can't seem to differentiate yourself in the market, I'm telling you it's because you are confusing your audience. Mm-hmm. Again, story is a sense-making device. That's why movies, if you know a story framework, you can watch a movie and pretty much know exactly what's going to happen. You see the hero, you see life before, it's grand, it's great and wonderful. They have some type of problem that they hit, some type of challenge that disrupts their life. They move forward from that challenge and are usually trying to figure out how to get back to a position of success through some type of journey that's aided by a helpful expert. Remember that helpful expert is going to be important in a second. As they go through, and then they either end up failing probably a little bit first, have some type of emotional struggle, and shoot out then to success, and then quickly the movie ends. Why does the movie end so quickly after success? Have you noticed that? After you have the problem and there's a resolution, you have like a final scene, you kumbaya, you hug it out, and then the credits roll. Because the story is no longer interesting without a problem there to keep you moving forward. No one wants to read about or watch a movie about someone who just sits there and eats cereal for 2 hours and you're watching them wondering if they're eating, Captain Crunch or Fruity Pebbles. That's not something that's captivating.
That's right. So and nobody wants to see somebody working in the trenches, which is what happens after the success. There's maintenance involved.
Yeah.
But we don't like that story.
Exactly. Exactly. We just want the Disney happily ever after. Obviously, I married you after meeting you for 5 minutes and we've gone on this adventure, and we probably should not get married for some serious psychological reasons, but we are, and we're going to go rule the kingdom and it's going to be great. Like that's right. Kind of where we're at. And after we go through that, no one wants to listen. A good sequel, if you notice, has to introduce another problem, right? So if you have Finding Nemo, you found Nemo, then what happens? You lose Dory, and then you have Finding Dory. Like, you can't just have the continuation of you looking into their family life. So when you are developing your puzzle piece, you've got the frames, you put everything together, and you present the finished story about why people should work with you, what problem you solve. You have to make sure that you keep reminding them of the problem. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see that wedding catering and events pros make, is they don't actually mention the problem they solve. So
you mean you have to keep reminding your audience of the problem that they have?
Exactly.
That you, as the professional, are able to solve, yeah?
Absolutely. Okay. That's exactly what I'm saying. So when you are saying, oh, well, that's stupid. I guess I shouldn't say stupid. That's silly.
You can say stupid. We say stupid on this podcast, you guys, okay? Sorry. Okay. As Aleya said at the beginning, if you're in your feelings after this, we can't help you.
Okay. You think you plan weddings, and the problem that you solve is someone who needs to plan their wedding. Mm-hmm. Not wrong. Totally not wrong. But that's not really the problem that is motivating them to come to you. There are several, and you have to figure out who exactly your ideal client is. But some problems that motivate people to come to a wedding planner are, I don't DIY, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm busy and I want this wedding to be planned and I really don't want to do it. I am worried because so-and-so's wedding was a huge crap show and I don't want that to be mine, so I'm going to get a planner. I have super good taste in my head and I don't know how to translate that out in the real world, so I need someone to help me do that. I want to be able to get the best price for my wedding and I don't know where to start. I could go on and on about all of the emotional reasons and the fears and the thinking that goes behind hiring a planner, and that those are the problems that you solve. And if you keep poking at those problems down your website homepage, for example, you keep poking at those problems on your social media feed, you keep poking at those problems on your proposal sheet, on your quote sheet, that's when you've captivated them into a story. Because when you say, I will solve everything for you, they're like, well, what are you solving? You don't even know me. Let's start there. And you haven't really told me what you're solving, and you're making me expend more brain cells to try to figure out what you think you're solving for. Remember earlier when I brought up the kind of typical movie framework, I talked about there's always a helpful guide that usually takes the character through the movie. You got, I don't watch Star Wars, but it's a really, I take that back. I've watched all of the Star Wars movies, but they don't really stick in my head. I'm more of a Trekkie really than anything else. But in Star Wars, you have Han Solo, you have and Luke Skywalker, and that Han Solo role is the guide role. It's guiding the character through. I did get that right. Do you watch Star Wars?
Yes, only because my brothers do.
Okay, and Luke was the hero, correct?
Luke is the hero in this hero's journey, yes.
Yes. So in this hero's journey, Luke is also the one who needs the most help. So the other big mistake that I see that we do in our industry is that we try to play the hero when we're writing things on our website. We say, like, I will save the day, basically, is what the website copy boils down to. When someone reads that, they go, no, I'm actually trying to be the hero of my own story, so I don't need you. There can only be one hero in my story. I don't need another hero. I don't need another weak character that thinks they know what they're doing. I need a guide that shows me that they can be empathetic, credible, and that they have a plan for me to solve the problem that they've expressly told me that they will solve for me. That's the next thing that you need to keep in mind, that you are not the hero of the story. You are the helpful expert, the guide that will bring them through their challenges. So when we talk about bringing it all the way back to Kinsey's very simple question, when we talk about what is a brand story, a brand story is the tool that you use to make sense of the problem you solve, who you solve it for, and how you solve it, and the plan that you will have to help them get to the success that they need and avoid the failure that is imminent if they do not work with you. And you keep reminding them of the problem throughout to keep them interested and involved in working with you all the way until that deal is sold.
And you can have more than one, and you should, I think, you should have more than one brand story. You don't have to keep reminding them of the one problem. Like, you know what I mean? If I'm looking at a business, and I think we all have, and I got this term from Angie Lee. I listen to her podcast. It's called The Angie Lee Show. She talks about micro brand stories and macro brand stories. So we have these, overall one or two macro brand stories, which are the thing that people know you for. For me, our macro brand story at Vista View Events is that it's on our family's ranch. It's called Open Heart Ranch. It's been in our family for over 75 years. That is a macro brand story. There's a bunch of details to it, you guys. But then we have these micro brand stories, which are those questions, in my mind, those questions you told us to ask ourselves, Aleya. What are the problems that we're solving? And each of those macro brand stories they still relate to, or micro brand stories, they still relate to the overall macro brand story of Vista View Events. Is that right? Am I understanding you correctly? Because I don't think what you're saying is hop on Instagram stories every day and tell people the same one thing over and over again.
Yes and no. So I think I think of it the same and different, to be super clear.
Yes and no, and the same and different, you guys.
Exactly. So what I think of when you're saying your macro brand story, it's kind of like your guiding thought, your core of who you are and what you do. So for example, Flourish Marketing, the company that I own, the main problem that we solve is helping wedding catering and events professionals deal with sporadic bookings and the seasonality of our business. That's the main problem that we solve. And we do that with marketing, education, strategy, and tools, right? So that the success looks like you get and keep a consistent stream of clients. So that macro problem can be broken down and talked about in a variety of different ways, especially leaning into how that problem makes you feel. And then I would think that we're talking about, then those would be those micro stories that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
I feel frustrated. I feel overwhelmed. I feel just flat out broke. I feel like I'm an imposter. I also, the biggest problem, not biggest problem, the more evident problem could be, don't have enough money in my bank account, or I don't have clients coming through the door, or I can't grow my team, things like that, then become additional talking points to that guiding problem, that overarching story. So no, you're not saying on your Instagram stories, let me tell you what your problem is. That's not going to work. That's why I mentioned earlier too that a good helpful expert, a good guide in anybody's story always needs to have some empathy. And empathy needs to go beyond, oh, I understand what you're saying, or, oh, I understand how you feel. If you say that too many times, you just are white noise. When it comes to empathy, you need to show, don't tell. So you say things like, wow, I bet that not having a lot of clients and figuring out how you're going to pay next month's water bill and struggling to see what type of promotion you can do really quickly to boost sales is really stressful. That's empathy, right? It's empathy. And if you notice, it's also problem poking at the same time.
That's right.
So you need to communicate in a way that truly, I mean, it is stressful. That would stress me out. Living client to client is the same as living paycheck to paycheck, and both of them suck. So you need to make sure that you are coming from a place of service and really truly actually wanting to help. And as you are crafting your story, remembering why you got into this whole shindig in the first place, right? You like weddings. You like helping people celebrate their love. You like the DIY. You are probably a card-carrying member of Hobby Lobby. Like, this is the stuff that you love, and you're translating that love in a way that gets people to understand that if they let you do what you love to do for them, their love will shine even brighter.
So let's talk about practical ways. So if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, I like this and I want to apply this, but they've never sat down to go through the ways that they do help their clients, in those ways that you use the wedding planner example a few minutes ago. I help people stay organized. I help people, put the wedding of their dreams together, all of whatever it is for you, but they've never actually sat down to do that. And right now they are just advertising their services as here's the big checklist of things that you get with this package, So what are some practical ways that somebody listening can sit down and figure out, okay, what are those pain points that I actually solve? And then one step further, how do I dig out the relevant stories to teach people, or to, guide people, using your words, to guide people through those pain points? We all have stories, but how do we pick out those stories that are relevant, that are complementary to those pain points?
That is such a great question. And like a good guide, you never start with yourself. You want to make sure that when you're trying to determine the pain points, you start with who the pain points belong to. So before you can determine what problem you're solving, you need to determine who you're solving it for. The ideal customer that you're looking to attract into your business has a unique set of problems. You can't firstly say, I will help plan anybody's wedding who wants to get married, because when you try to talk to everyone, you end up talking to no one, because you end up saying generic language on your site like, for the past 20 years, we've helped plan exquisitely distinct weddings for the discerning couple. It's like, oh, okay.
Yep.
That sounds a little familiar, right?
It totally does, you guys. First of all, I'm like on my website right now, making sure it doesn't say that. No, I'm just kidding. But also, I feel like I've read that 100 times. That you're killing me. I love you so much. Keep going. Okay, sorry.
I mean, I've reviewed, part of what I do is I do review websites for free for people because I'm just tired of it. Like, I'm tired of this, and people don't see it on their own because their websites are their babies. And I see that over and over again on people's sites. And again, it's not bad. Like, it's not that you're lying or saying something crazy, but it, like we're saying, sounds like everybody else. And if I am getting married, I am not really looking for you to tell me about, this generic sense of someone else. I'm looking for you to tell me how you can help me. So if you had your particular person in your mind, and say that person was 30 years old, and they're probably in some kind of creative job, and 30 years old means they're kind of like on the older millennial side. They got that environmentally conscious thing, but they're kind of broke because student loans, and then I don't know, they probably like to travel, but they also still want to look like they got their ish together. And if you have that person in your mind, instead of writing what I just said, you might have something that's super specific, that's like, you're feeling stressed because you're not normally a DIY kind of person, but since you and your boo are paying for your big day out of your vegan leather pocketbooks, you're trying to keep costs low, and you're trying to have this amazing, epic honeymoon trip, and that's what you really want to do with your money, and we get it. And you're a modern bride with a distinct style. You're balling on a budget because you got goals, #boss babe, but you still want your dream wedding, and you don't want your gold digger status to slip. And you definitely don't want to have any more student loans. And that's why we can help you, because we create celebrations for people that are trying to go conquer the world and at the same time look fabulous doing it. That's website copy.
Okay, so we figured out who we want to target, which is the first step you mentioned. And then how do we figure out those pain points? Well, we figured out what the pain points are because we figured out who we're speaking to. So then how do we dig out those relevant stories? I think people really need some practical tips with this. I have a lot of stories about being in marketing, about being a venue owner, about being a podcaster, but what's relevant to my audience? Not me specifically, but how do we pick out those relevant brand stories throughout our extensive lives? You guys, I'm 32. Come on. You know what I mean?
Oh, back in the day.
Yeah. I remember when. But my back really does hurt like an old person. Let's be real.
Oh my gosh, no, it is ridiculous. And, I haven't seen my chiropractor in a minute, and I am cracking joints like I am 90 years old. I don't know when that happened.
We're 167.
Exactly. No, but it's a totally valid question. So you determine who they are. You determine how to talk their lingo. You determine their pain points by doing some research. So don't make it up. Go to the census website, for example, and figure out what the average age is of people getting married, or the average salary, and how much money that they're making, what they're most likely able to afford. And then target those customers. Do some of that research, because that in and of itself will help you unearth some of their pain points. And then you start building stories as solutions to their pain points. If they are, like in our example, a 30-something person who's working a side gig, even though she's trying to be successful just to pay off her student loans, then talk about that. Talk about, and you would have gathered that information based on basic census data, or crawling through the news and saying, what are the problems hitting millennials, or what's the average age of people getting married in my city? Okay, age X to X. What generation is that? Okay, what are the top problems that they're facing? And you can do that by Googling online. You can also dive into Facebook groups, which I'm sure all of you are in, full of brides, and don't sell, just lurk and engage when you can, but lurk and see what the problems are that they're having. Not, oh, I can't find the right centerpiece, but the true problems, the problems when the brides get in those groups or the couples and they say, I really am struggling with this. Can you help me? That's when you really need to pay attention. Then you take all of those and you kind of rank them. What are the things that you're seeing more frequently? Are you seeing that it's a money thing? Are you seeing it's a style thing? Are you seeing it's a time issue? And that is the number one problem that you hit first. Now, this is when your own story comes into play. You can do all of this research and look at kind of what you have done on your paper. You're like, okay, I see that they have all of these problems. This is about how much money they make. This is how much they're going to spend. And you're like, ooh, they can't afford me. That before you start attacking their problems and going out into the world and trying to solve them, when you look at that piece of paper and you don't think that they are making enough money for you, that means that you're targeting the wrong person. So go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I've targeted people that are struggling to pay student loans. Maybe I want to target the people whose parents paid for them to go to school and they're of a different socioeconomic class. What challenges then do they have? And don't start targeting the problems until they are problems you actually want to solve. Then you take those problems and you always start off your website, your marketing copy, your social media posts by positioning a problem. It could be in the form of a question like, oh, isn't it super frustrating when you're trying to plan your wedding and trying to run your own business at the same time, and you feel like the clock just goes faster? How the heck does Beyonce do it? They keep saying that I have the same number of hours in a day as she does, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. And then you get into some other tip or piece of advice or into your service. But you're poking that problem with questions, with opening up kind of like a moment in the minds for the people that you're writing to. Does that answer your question, Kinsey?
Yeah, that does. And so in the same vein, not really in the same vein, but kind of as we're developing these brand stories, a lot of my listeners, many of them, they are solo entrepreneurs. It's just them in their business. Perhaps they work with people, they contract out with other people on the weekends, but majority, it's just them in their business. But I also have another set of listeners and they have teams. And so, especially at the beginning, we talk about, you have a bit of a personal brand, like Flourish is not your name, obviously. But you tell personal stories to, and kind of weave those into your story. And I think it's almost like the knee-jerk reaction to creating brand stories, especially if we are entrepreneurs. But I'm curious how you help your clients understand either two things. If they know they want to build a team and they do not want to be the sun of the solar system of their business, which I do think is important if you know you want to scale and grow and outsource and hire people, so how do we help people understand how to use brand story if they know they want to grow, so that it's not like, it was about Kinsey for 5 years and now all of a sudden it's about all these, this 5 other people, or how do we help people who do have a team and they have brand story, they want to do this brand story work and they want to, move to profit with brand story, but they don't know how to, should they be using really personal stories, or should they be you use more personal stories? I went to Cordon Bleu, I worked for Stevie Wonder, or should they be using more overarching stories of their actual business? You see what I'm saying about that?
Oh yeah, I totally see what you're saying. So I do have my personal brand story and the problems that I solve, and then I do have Flourish Marketing, and I do have a team there, and we have our own story. Yeah. A story is a story if you have a character, a problem, a guide, and a resolution, right? So if you are talking about the problem that you solve for a certain character and how you guide them through it, that is your story. A story is not a backstory. We're talking about two different things. I just want to clarify. This was not what you said, but I just want to clarify that when you're talking about your backstory, my grandpa started this company back in 1954. That's a backstory, right? Your story always is about the hero, which remember you are not yourself. So if you're talking about developing your company story, you have a team, you say, okay, here at Ashley Smith Weddings, we solve the problem of you wanting to have a lavish looking wedding on a budget. And we do that through these 3 services. And to book with us, here's your step 1, 2, and 3. To add credibility to our story, let me show you some of our past work and walk you through how we solved the problem for them. That's often what's missing from a lot of planners' websites. First of all, a lot of planners' websites are actually too short and don't have enough information on them. They have a lot of words and not actually a lot of great meaty information. If you're going to have pictures up from a past wedding, it looks gorgeous. And that's great, but it's not a full story. What problem did you solve? What did they come to you looking for, and what did you deliver for that couple? that adds your credibility. And if you're also weaving into that story, like, we really understood them. They came to us for this issue, and then we solved it by this, and we understood how stressed they were. So we also added this additional kind of tool for them. We made sure that we called to check up on them once a week because we knew that this point of their wedding made them really stressed out. That's what you click through when you want to see someone's gallery on your website, right? Mm-hmm. And by adding in those points, that's when you're saying, oh, I'm guiding you as I have guided, or as we, our team, have guided people in the past. It is a show of social proof, a show of credibility, and also a show that you are able to understand someone else and not just create the same wedding over and over and over again.
Yes, I like that. What is a final last tip you have for us, Aleya, about using brand story to drive profit?
Don't overcomplicate it. Always make the story about your customer and not yourself, and make it very simple. The basic story is, what is the problem and what is the solution? If you do that, you will already be miles in front of most of the wedding professionals that I see out there trying to market their business, because you will be, first of all, helping your search engine results, because you'll be using the words that your customer is using on your website, which will help you show up in search results more easily. And you're making them not have to try to take that puzzle and put it together themselves. You're doing it for them, which helps your brand be the clearer brand inside the market, whether you are by yourself or whether you have a team. And clarity wins. Your skills aren't really visible as a planner until you start working with someone. And then by that point in time, they've already signed a contract and you're rolling down the road. So the thing to differentiate yourself with is not necessarily, we've been in business for 30 years, but it's how clear you can be at what problem they have and how you solve it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Tell everybody where they can find you online, Aleya. I know they're going to connect with you after this.
Yes, I would love to. And I really do love connecting. So it's not, oh, should I send her an email? She's going to be like, ugh, I ain't got no time for you. No, please do email me, because we can chat, and I talk to people all the time. So my email address is grow@flourishmarketing.co. .co, not .com. So grow@flourishmarketing.co. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Aleya Harris, Aleya Harris, or at flourishmarketing.co on Instagram as well.
Perfect. And as always, you guys, I will put that all in the show notes. But before you go, Aleya, I would be remiss if I did not ask you to share this, because I think this will be something incredible for everybody to take a peek at. Tell us a little bit about Spark.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So Spark Marketing, I am super excited because it is launching on May 25th. It's a 5-week video online on-demand course that teaches you how to build a marketing plan by answering 5 simple questions. It's the only course in our industry of its kind. It takes away the marketing jargon, and it takes away the overwhelm, and it walks you through step by step by step, so that by the end you have one of the most important foundational tools that you need for your business. In the beginning, I mentioned that I help people in our industry because often they're really great at what they do, but they don't know how to market, and so they don't make as much money doing what they want to do as they could. So this course will help you know how to market, so then you can instantly know how to increase your profit potential because you know what to do with your own story. So if you are interested in enrolling or checking it out some more, you can go to flourishmarketing.co/spark, flourishmarketing.co/spark, and there's all kinds of juicy information there, including a breakdown of all the modules. And since you've listened to this podcast, you'll see that it starts off by poking a problem. So it's also a good example of what that even looks like.
I cannot thank you enough for sharing that with us, you guys. And as always, just like the other links, I will put a link to Spark Marketing in the show notes so that you can go click on that, take a peek, get in touch with Aleya if that's something your business needs. Definitely worth taking a look at. Aleya Harris from Flourish Marketing, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.